thank you for joining us. I'm Olivera Zatezalo, and I'm Chief Security Officer at Huawei Canada. And I'm here to talk to you today about 5G and innovation and some of the challenges and potential opportunities and benefits that we are going to get from the 5G rollout. So before we start, first I would like to thank CyberX. I think these 2 days are amazing. Lots of good discussions, lots of smart people, amazing energy. So thank you, CyberX, you're doing an amazing job. So here with me today, I have 2 panelists. I have Kelly Elliott. Kelly is a deputy mayor at Penn Center. And I have Dr. Anwar Haq. He is assistant professor at Western University and expert in residence. So I would like to ask Kelly to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about why is this topic so important to her.
Sure. So as she said, my name is Kelly Elliott. I am the deputy mayor in the municipality of Penn Center. So that is a municipality of approximately 14,000 people, and we border the city of London in southwestern Ontario. And we are predominantly small rural communities. I also sit on the board of directors with the Ontario Good Roads Association, as well as I sit on the board of health with the Middlesex London Health Unit. I also sit on a steering committee for Intercity Rail, and that is a group that focuses its efforts on better transit systems in Ontario. And I am a big advocate for rural areas, including our access to internet in rural areas, essentially because that's where I grew up. That's where all my friends and family and neighbors are. And that's also where I have chosen to raise my family. So I have a 13-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. So I grew up on a cash crop and hog farm that my parents and my brother still farm today. And I actually just live a couple farms down from where I grew up. So rural life is all I've ever known. I truly love it. And I do believe that the only downside to it is accessing reliable internet. Really is the only downfall to it. So my roots in my community span generations, and I'm passionate about all things rural, whether it's access to internet, better transit, our roads, our bridges, access to healthcare, our economic development, our rural schools, or protecting agricultural land. I speak out for a lot of those things. In Ontario and across Canada, our rural communities are really the backbones of our economies, whether it's agriculture, manufacturing, natural resources. We are crucial to the rest of Ontario and to Canada, and they rely on us. However, a lot of the times kind of our rural municipalities are left behind when it comes to investing in infrastructure and technology. And so that's why I really believe that taking every chance that I can to advocate for them is really important. So I got involved in politics in 2014. I ran for my local council, and I was elected as the ward councillor, and then subsequently I ran for deputy mayor in 2018 election and was obviously successful there. Some of my other passions include getting young people and women more involved in our community and running for municipal levels of government, as well as engaging our youth and better understanding what happens at the municipal level in government. So outside of all of this, I work in marketing for an outdoor power tools company, and I do website design and social media. And as I mentioned, I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old who keep me busy, and outside of COVID, things have kind of changed a lot, but they're usually really active in baseball, soccer, and hockey. So that's me.
Kelly, thank you so much. Amazing. I admire what you do. And also I envy you for being so close to your family. Like my family, 10,000 kilometers away. So my only connection to my family is internet, basically. So this is why I feel so passionately about communication, connecting people. So thank you for that. We are happy to have you here. And now I would like to kindly ask Dr. Anwar to tell us a little bit about himself and about the work that you do at the Western University.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Olivera, for inviting me into this very timely and important panel. I think we're gonna have a great talk today. And also thank you so much to the CyberX platform here. I got a chance to look into CyberX, the different sessions, the panels, and the programs that they are organizing, and it's really amazing. It's lots of good energy, positive knowledge sharing, and between the industry, academia, stuff that I have seen. It's really amazing. So thanks a lot. My name is Anwar Haq, and I am an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Western Ontario, London, Ontario. In addition to my faculty membership role in Department of Computer Science, I also serve as an industry expert in residence in the Faculty of Science at Western. In that industry expert in residence role, what I do is I develop and manage an industry academia research collaboration partnership in the area of information and communication technologies. And smart systems, smart applications are one of the main areas that I really look into. Basically, I try my best to bridge the gap between the industry and academia. That's what I've been doing for all my life. Before joining Western, which is not so long ago, I joined Western in late 2016, early 2017. Before joining Western, I was at Bell Canada, so I spent about 15 years of my career in Bell Canada in various technical and leadership roles. So I was in network planning, network operation, research and development, technology development, business development. My last position at Bell was I was the associate director for network service cost modeling. So basically, I had the opportunity to see the end-to-end view of a major communication infrastructure. So I was really that was really an opportunity for me to learn in that particular area. While at Bell, in addition to my regular industry hats, I was also a Bell Canada champion for promoting Canadian industry and academia research collaboration partnership. So I initiated a number of major research partnership programs with a number of universities nationwide at that time. And that way I was very connected to the academic world as well. Because I always feel that there is a little bit of gap that we have between the industry and academia, and we should be coming forward and work together as a team to bridge that gap, because that creates an awesome win-win environment where everybody from all the stakeholders from different sides can really get benefited. It's good for the academic the university professors for their research. It's good for the on the industry side, and most importantly, it's really helpful for the students, because they are the next generation, right? Our next leaders. So that was really helpful. And then after I moved to Western, I've been collaborating research in the area of wireless and wireline communication networks, from performance and network resource management perspective, also the optimization perspective, focusing mostly on the quality of service. We call it QoS, quality of service and quality of experience. Also, I'm actively involved in the cybersecurity research as well. And so those are my theoretical areas of research. In terms of the application domain, I'm very much focused on developing the smart systems. So some of the examples are connected vehicles, autonomous drones, smart home security systems, failure localization and automatic failure system development for smart grid, and smart home energy management systems. So these are some of the examples of the research projects that I've been doing. And for most of my projects, I do collaborate with the major industry partners in Canada. So I'm happy to say that. The thing that makes me really happy in that sense that I'm in a position now to leverage and utilize all my industry knowledge and experience and share that with my research students, both to my undergrad students and my graduate students. So that's really, a big accomplishment, and when I think about it, I feel really good about it. As I have said, the application domains for me in the research areas are the smart systems. And obviously, when you talk about smart systems, there are two things that comes into mind. One is the AI, the machine learning. Smart, when you say smart, we are developing a smart machine. So it has to be, AI has to be there. And also, the other thing is the connectivity. Without the proper connectivity, the communication infrastructure is useless. Yeah. No smart system can come into life without that. So as a natural choice, 5G is there. So yes, 5G is part of my research. So I'm really happy that I'm in this panel today, and would be able to contribute to some of the areas based on the questions from Olivera and from the audience. I'll touch base with that. I'd like to finish my introduction just by telling you a very short recent story from one of my students. So one of the undergrad students is a final year graduate undergrad student here, finishing his undergrad program in computer science, recently graduated. He was doing his undergrad thesis with me in an UAV, unmanned autonomous vehicle, unmanned autonomous drone systems. And he finished his everything, and he got an excellent job in Toronto. He was living in one of the rural communities in London Middlesex area. So he came to my office and I congratulated him. I said, congratulations for everything. You must be very excited, going for this, your dream job and finishing your undergrad degree for sure. He said, yes, everything is exciting, but what excites me most is the internet speed that I'm going to get in Toronto. So he said, all my life, I lived with less than 1 meg speed. 1 meg, 1.5 meg, and it's patchy. And now the apartment that I just rented in Toronto, that got 1 gig connections. So that story tells how important the connectivity is. Again, thank you, everyone, and thanks for having me here.
Thank you. The great story. Thank you for sharing that story. And actually, I couldn't agree more with you that the partnership between industry and academia is very important. And also, it's funny to learn that we are part of the same Bell family. I was 20 years for the MTS, which is now Bell. And just a little bit about myself before we move on. I am a Chief Security Officer for Huawei. I've been working in telecommunication for over 20 years. Last 3 years, my responsibility at Huawei is to make sure that all products and services that Huawei sells in Canada are up to Canadian laws and regulations. So I work with Canadian government in an open and transparent fashion. We have a regular communication on everything that was done in Canada. So we are here to talk about 5G. And what I would like to say, I've been talking about 5G for the last number of years. But as of last year, we started seeing 5G networks being rolled around the globe. We've seen 5G networks being rolled out in Europe. Even the smallest European country, Morocco, has a 5G network. We've seen 5G networks in Asia, in China, in Korea. We have networks in Canada. There is a network of few networks, 5G networks in United States. So 5G is no longer a future. 5G is now. And the way we live and the way we work will never be the same. We are going to see a dramatic changes. And we are here to talk to you about this. So 5G technology is going to be about 100 times faster than the current 4G technology. But it's not just about the speed. It's going to be more reliable, and also it's going to be it's going to have a lower latency rate, lag. Like the data you send in between network and the devices is going to take less time to travel, and we're going to see less latency in real time, which is very important for some of these use cases that Dr. Anwar mentioned, like autonomous vehicles and stuff like that. Another big benefit is that we are going to see a mass communication, lots of communication devices being deployed. And what's also important, they are going to be able to communicate in between themselves. And on top of that, we are going to be collecting this data. We are going to have a big databases. On the top of that, artificial intelligence and deep learning. So like a huge potential that we get from these fast networks, the lower latency, ultra reliable, and on top of that, artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I would like just to briefly mention two primary examples that are important for us right now before we go into the discussion. So number one example would be as Dr. Anwar mentioned, the autonomous vehicles. So imagine the city of the future where autonomous vehicles are going to be connected and talking to the street light. And they're also going to be connected and talking to the on-the-ground sensors to be able to navigate us through rush hours. So Canadian Wireless Telecommunication Association has done this study. And actually what they found, I find it very interesting actually. If we manage to cut down 10% of the commuting time in big cities like Vancouver and Montreal, that would impact our GDP in Vancouver, $270 million. In Montreal, just 10% commuting time to and from work would benefit Montreal $535 million. So that's almost a billion in Canadian GDP in between these two cities. So this is just to illustrate the potential benefit. Another very important use case I would like to mention is the healthcare and use of the smart devices in healthcare. So during this pandemic, we all know that CT scans have been used as a part of COVID-19 testing. And it takes, on average, a doctor about 10 minutes to review the CT scan. If you use computer vision, this can be done in 12 seconds. So this is huge help to the already burned out doctor. So we see a lot of different benefit in here. And I'm sure, Kelly, healthcare is a huge opportunity for the people living in the rural area because of the connected ambulances, of options for remote at-home care, and available technology to monitor the healthcare. So I think we're going to see some huge benefit. So this track is a smart city track, but we're not going to be just talking about smart cities. We are going to talk a lot about rural communities in Canada. And the reason is Canada is a very unique place. We have this huge territory, sparsely populated, and we do have social responsibility to provide equal digital dividends to all people across this beautiful country of ours. So with this, what I would like to do right now, I would like to turn to Kelly. Kelly, I would like to ask you, as you said, you represent a community of 13,000 people. What is your experience living and working in this community? And did you see any improvements over the last 15 to 10 years as we move from 2G to 3G to 4G?
So thank you for your question. So obviously, and we've chatted about this before, that connecting to reliable internet, it really varies from community to community and depending where you are and what you are able to access. So I know for me personally in Thames Centre, we're a bit of a dead zone. So sometimes I struggle personally to even access 3G, especially in some of our smaller communities, let alone even being able to access 4G or LTE. So again, it's very patchy and it depends where you are and where you can connect. So sometimes I kind of joke with some of my constituents that when we hear reports about cities getting rollouts of 5G, we kind of do the whole shake your fist in the air because sometimes we struggle just to get even a couple bars of a 3G network. So as I mentioned the municipality that I represent in southwestern Ontario is just outside of the city of London, which is a larger urban center. But we find when you leave kind of that city border is you essentially leave behind kind of digital civilization. So to conduct business and for a lot of our children to complete online learning, to bank, as you mentioned, to access healthcare or even some government services. As Dr. Hawk had mentioned, that 1 megabyte per second download internet speed, it's essentially meaningless. And even the 5 megabyte per second speeds that we see a lot of in our rural areas, they're really only good for one person in the house that just kind of has basic needs on the internet. And it was actually kind of interesting, the Canadian Internet Registry Authority released data earlier this week, and it had shown over this pandemic that the median rural download speeds were measured at measly 3.78 megabytes per second, in contrast to what urban centers were seeing that were 12 times faster. So even when you compare it just into my small community in Thames Centre and just traveling a few kilometers down the road and being in the city of London and being able to access better and faster internet, and allowing those download speeds that our urban counterparts are seeing and being able to have that in our rural areas would allow our businesses to use some cloud-based software. It would allow our children to learn at home and really support multiple people using the internet at home at once. So just a quick note, only 40% of households across rural Canada have access to basic broadband internet as defined by the CRTC as that 50 megabytes per second download speed. And I thought to make it easier to kind of put things in perspective of what it's like accessing internet in rural areas outside of those cities, I did a quick search of my house last night on the National Broadband Internet Service Availability Map. And in my service area, which is essentially a 25 square kilometer hexagon, there's an estimated 51 to 100 households, and only 0 to 25% of those homes can access that 10 megabytes per second coverage from the service providers that provide internet. And just a quick note, when it comes to funding and bringing internet out to the rural areas, in those service hexagons, the way the funding works is that if one house in that service hexagon can access that 10 megabyte speed, that area is considered partially serviced. And so those areas are no longer eligible for that funding. So that process alone just eliminates internet access to up to 100,000 families in Ontario alone. But just to go kind of back to my area, I pay about $75 a month through my provider. I get 5 megabytes per second download speeds and 2 megabytes per second upload speed. That's kind of what I average at. And if you kind of look at the best service that's offered in my area, it's more than $150 per month, and you only get the 10 megabyte download, 4 megabyte upload. So it's really a far cry in the rural areas to get that CTRC's 5010 recommendation. And just to top it off too, my service is very dependent on lots of other factors, including how many other people are using the tower for that service and even the weather. So today is a stormy, rainy day, so I am not getting internet at home. So there really is a clear divide between the rural and the urban communities when it comes to that connectivity, and even more so in our Indigenous communities. But even on top of being able just to connect, affordability also comes into play for a lot of rural residents, and being able to access that internet. I know over the past little bit, there's been reports across Canada, families seeing internet bills upwards of $800 per month just trying to access the internet. So really in the year 2020, accessing this is no longer a luxury. And I think the pandemic in the last little bit has really proved that it's a necessity, and we really need to start treating it. And as you mentioned, ensuring that there's that fair and equitable access across Canada for all our residents.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I think it's very important that we talk more about that, and it's very important that the rest of Canada hears story like that. Um, Thank you so much. As I said, we have to be fair, and we do have a social responsibility to share digital dividends with the rest of Canada. So with this, I would like to go to Dr. Hack and ask you, Doctor, from your research, why is it important to have 5G? Why is it important to have 5G overall and in Canada especially?
Yes, no, thanks, Oliver, and thanks, Kelly, as well for shedding light into the rural community in terms of what kind of speed they're experiencing and what is really needed in future. So in order to understand the importance of 5G, we need to first find out what it could do for us, right? What we have now at the present and what the future might offer us. I'll start with this COVID-19, the very unprecedented time the entire planet is going through, very difficult time for us. And I think everybody we have realized that how important it is for us to have a good connectivity. You know, the way we are talking here today is because of a good connectivity. The way people during the lockdown, the people ordered the groceries online, it's because of the connectivity, because of the communication infrastructure system that we have in place. And this is, we all realized through this COVID-19 time that how critical it is for us to having a good communication infrastructure in place to support us. It is really critical for our survival. It's really critical for our survival, and also a critical tool for managing and handling a difficult situation like this. Now, the question is, so what is the problem? We do have connectivity. We can do, the virtual meetings. We can order things from Amazon. We can do things, so many things. We are daily basis, or we are working from home. We are doing our lectures at the universities. So what is the problem? Well, if we look into the future, in order to answer what the problem is, it is not necessarily that you always look into the present. You must look into what's coming, what is in the future. So if you look into the future, we are moving towards very hyper-connected world, basically based on a very solid, strong communication infrastructure. When I say hyper-connected world, what does it mean? Think about 20 years ago. How many devices you were using that time that are connected to the internet? Your laptop, your desktop, and your cell phone. How many devices you are using today that are connected to the internet? Think about yourself. You are at home, right? And you have the family members. They're all connected to multiple devices. Your home has a security system. It is connected to the internet. You have smart appliances at home, right? And so it is growing an exponential rate. IBM predicting there are billions of devices getting connected to the internet. Why we are talking all this connectivity and things? Because we are looking towards a future, a smart, intelligent, digital, safe, secure future through the technology and innovations that we would like to have. Right? So in order to have those, some of the examples are, which we already discussed briefly, connected vehicles, autonomous drones, smart grid, smart home, smart city services, e-health, smart healthcare. Basically everything we talk about smart and our future services, the next generation services we often talk about, are all based on this connectivity that needs three things. Number one, a very, very big bandwidth. Okay, virtual reality, augmented reality, 4K, all this needs big bandwidth. So that's number one. Number two, we call it latency, network latency. What it is basically if you send a packet from a point A in your network to a point B, let's say it's 10,000 kilometers away, how long does it take for the packet A for that particular packet X, of going from point A to point B. That's the one-way latency. We call it round trip time, meaning double it, going there and coming back. So latency is a very, very important factor of supporting real-time mission-critical applications and services. So that's number 2, okay, latency. Number 3 is the strength of the signal, how good the signal is, okay? Is the signal weak or signal is really strong? So these 3 things, the combination of these three things are very important, how successful your, how strong and reliable and good your communication infrastructure is. So today's communication, if you look into the history, we started from 1980s with the 1G, with some just kbps, kilobits per second, and basically every after 10 years, we moved to a next generation. So from 2G, 3G, 4G, and now we are at 4G LTE, advanced communication protocols. So the question is, do we have these 3 items adequate in the 4G to offer services that we are talking about? The answer is no. The answer is simply no. Our bandwidth is not enough that we are getting. It is, of course, it's a good bandwidth. So for example, in the morning, I tested from my smartphone how much, and I'm on LTE advanced network to check how much download I'm getting. I was getting 120 meg. It's good, but it is not enough for supporting the services and future applications that we are talking about. Virtual reality, a true virtual reality experience, if you want to get that, it needs more than 500 meg of speed. So we are far away from that, right? If you want to perform a robotic surgery in a remote area, in a rural area, right, you need a massive bandwidth, high definition 4K quality, so that the surgeon is in a central hospital who is operating these robotic arms and doing the surgery on the patient can see everything with microscopic view. So the bandwidth wise, we are good, but we are not there yet. The latency wise, so I check my latency. I check my latency about my packet. How long does it take? So I'm getting about 30 to 40 millisecond range. That is not even close what we need for the applications that we are talking about. For example, those mission critical dedicated systems, real-time or near real-time system, needs the latency in a 1 millisecond level, 2 millisecond level, 3 millisecond level. We are not close to that. So that's second item, right? The third item, quality of signal. I often get my call dropped. It depends on where you are, right? Which area you are, but it happens, and I'm pretty sure it happened with you. You get you are in a WhatsApp call or a Facebook call with your friends, and you are walking and you are going through, moving from one place to another place, and you'll see there's a choppiness there. What does it happen? There are many factors, but signal quality also play a role there. So the LTE advanced or whatever we have now is okay, but it's not the quality that we need for the services, the future next generation services we are talking about. So those are the items that 5G is going to address. So 5G is offering, as Olivera said earlier of a discussion, 100 times more than the bandwidth that we are thinking now. It goes 10 gig, 20 gig, depending on the various versions of the 5G and the things. The latency in the research, we have proved that it's possible to have that at a sub-millisecond level, even below a 1 millisecond level, depending on how good we design our network. Signal quality is really strong. 5G is fundamentally different than an LTE. How does it do the signaling? It's a short range, but with a very strong signal quality. So these are the reasons that we need 5G to get into the advancement of science and technology and the technological advancement that we're looking for. Now, the ultimate question that people will ask, why we need all these smart services and things? is it because only for the scientific advancement, but what is going to give us to our society, to our human race? Well, these are the services and the applications that will equip us to enjoy a more convenient, a more, a more safe, secure, and more connected world that everybody will get benefited from. So that's the reason 5G is so important for us to consider.
Thank you so much, Dr. Huck. And actually, I believe that even Kelly mentioned before that we started the panel discussion that quality of her signal depends on how many people are using it at the same time. So Kelly, I would like to bring us back to the reality. So during this pandemic, COVID-19, we are all asked to practice social distancing. We are working from home, we are staying at home. So it's more than ever important to have this connectivity. Mm-hmm. So can you share with us some of the lessons learned and the feedback you are getting from your community when it comes to school kids using the online learning? Also your experience as elected official, and what are the lessons learned that you learned from this experience over the last 2 months?
Yeah, of course. So kind of when all of this started, when the states of emergencies were declared for COVID, and we began to start to move our council meetings to online Zoom meetings, I remember our Middlesex County IT manager sent us all a link to test our upload download speeds to make sure that we would all be able to utilize the online video conferencing so we could still meet and hold our local government council meetings. And I literally couldn't even get the speed site to load. So I knew I was going to be in trouble at home. And as I mentioned before, I have a 13 and an 11-year-old, and they're now having to depend on accessing their education on whether or not it is a rainy day and we can get a good connection and get them to log into their Google Classrooms and access their work. They're having to stream YouTube videos. Their teachers are sending them links on instructions and how to do things. And so they're having to stream those videos as well. And that sometimes we run into problems. Their teachers want them to get on a meeting and have a video conference so they can chat with the class. And that's really hit or miss whether my kids are able to do it. And as you said, now more than ever, it's really clear that all Canadians need access to that reliable internet. The COVID-19 pandemic has definitely brought into light the need for the 5G technology in rural areas and as an essential service. So as I mentioned before, in April 2020, the urban counterparts, they were seeing download speeds of almost 12 times faster than what rural areas were seeing. And the Canadian Internet Registry Authority also had produced documentation this week that since February, so since COVID-19 hit, the median speeds, download speeds in rural areas have actually fallen since February. In contrast to the urban speeds are actually increasing since the pandemic began. And even if you flip over to the upload speeds, the rural speeds are on average 10 times slower than what the urban speeds are seeing. And that's really critical when it comes to that video conferencing and what a lot of people need when they're working from home and the kids are trying to meet with their teachers and their classmates. So rural and small municipalities, we've been advocating for better internet and more reliable internet for years. This is nothing new. It's just this global pandemic has forced municipalities like Thames Centre to have to rely on the poor infrastructure that they have in order to govern and represent their communities like I'm doing. So the inequitable access has always existed. It's been heightened during this pandemic. And, for me and my, I'll call it embarrassing, 5.2 internet speeds, I now have to travel into town. So I have about a 20-minute drive into town to our municipal office, and that's where I have to go to attend our council meetings for any boards or committees I'm on. Even events like today, I had to drive into town in order to get a good enough internet connection to do this. So, everyone jokes about having those virtual meetings in your living room and wearing your pajama pants. So unfortunately, that's not a luxury I'm able to enjoy. And our provincial government here in Ontario has really learned that in order to enforce this online learning, kids really need to be able to access the internet. However, you know, implementing a full infrastructure plan in a month is near impossible. And so what has happened is in conjunction with the province and our local school boards, they've kind of offered, we like to call them Scotch tape and hope plans that rural kids can access the internet. So here in our area, in partnership with the telecom community, our school boards are offering Wi-Fi hotspots at all of our libraries, so that way kids can access high-speed internet. The only problem with that right now is we're in a pandemic and our libraries are closed. So essentially, you have these Wi-Fi hotspots that you can access from the parking lot. So you hope it's a nice weather day, you can drop your kids off at the library, they can do their homework in the parking lot. If it's a rainy day, or you know, you have parents that aren't comfortable just dropping their kids off, you're, you know, forcing the parents to go sit inside the car in a parking lot and wait for their kids to do their homework. And you know, that doesn't even touch on the fact that, you know, we're not enforcing social distancing, we're not preventing gatherings, we're trying to get everyone in one place just to access the internet. So when that was first announced a couple of weeks ago, you know, I was very vocal in the fact that it was something, but it's not a permanent solution. You know, again, it's a Scotch tape solution to a major and a growing problem. And it's not just our students that are struggling. My cousin lives down the road from me. She's an elementary school teacher and she has the same problem. She has no reliable high-speed internet. And our Minister of Education here in Ontario was quoted in a press conference saying, you know, teachers need to embrace live video conferencing. And he said, you know, the expectation from the ministry is that teachers are going to be able to do these live video conferences with their students. And they don't even address the fact that what happens when the teachers themselves can't access the internet. And so the solution for teachers was much like the students, you know, drive to your school parking lot and sit in your car and, you know, do the lessons and video conference your kids from the car. So again, we're not promoting that social distancing. We're not promoting gatherings. And really at what point is it fair that people who can't have access to internet have to drive out of their homes and drive into town in order to get it? And so, you know, she's been very vocal too about the difficulty in providing lessons or video conferencing with her students when she's dropped out of calls or she can't even access the internet to provide that work for her students. So like I said before, this problem has existed for years. We, as elected officials in rural areas, we've been advocating the government for years for this, but the pandemic has really, it's forced people into their homes to work from home. It's forced kids to get their education online. And it's really amplified the need that the internet has to be treated as an essential service. And like we said before, it has to be fair and equitable to all Canadians, regardless of where you live.
Thank you so much, Kelly. As I said, it's so unfair. I have to say it's so unfair, and I hear you, and I think it's important to have this discussion. So you have a few more minutes, 3 more minutes. So Dr. Huck, I know you are doing a lot of research and you are trying to understand economic and social impact of the 5G network. Can you share with us a 5G, what would 5G role from a rural Canadian perspective be? What would be economic and social impact from the work you are doing?
From a rural perspective, I think the opportunity is huge. So if you look into rural Canada today, you know, about 18%, I think the statistics is like that, about 18% of the Canadian population live in the rural areas. So that's significant. Some of our industry verticals, major industry verticals, are situated in a rural setup. Agriculture is a very important factor to our national GDP. Some of the manufacturing plants are in the rural area setup. Some of the minings are not necessarily rural, but they are in the remote areas. So when we say that 5G is going to, you know, bring the technological advancement in this area X and this area Y, what does it mean from a rural perspective? Well, in addition to this, the economic benefit that those particular agriculture, mining, and the manufacturing and healthcare too, right? So those are underserved areas in the rural where we do not have a sophisticated healthcare setting. So in addition to those, I'll come to that point. But first and foremost, I'll go back to my student experience. Is he finished his undergrad, he got his dream job, but what excited him the most is he's moving from a 1 meg to 1 gig, right? So as Kelly clearly pointed out, give a clear outline of the internet distribution, internet speed distribution in the rural areas are really patchy and it's low. So by bringing the 5G, it is very possible and realistic that we can provide much higher speed in those communities today. And as a community, right? They are the students, they are the other professionals are living there. They will be enjoying, watching the Netflix in 4K. They will be enjoying having kids will be enjoying playing the video games, in a virtual reality mode. Other people may enjoy the augmented reality and things like that. So that's one aspect of how it will improve the quality of life of people there, how it will improve the level of satisfaction, what we call as the quality of experience by the end users of those telecom customers. So that's one aspect. The other economic aspect in the rural area that I can see, for example, if we talk about a smart healthcare system or e-health, people in the rural area today, for any complicated, medical or health condition or situation, they need to, or even for the diagnostic, they need to come to the central, right, to the major cities, hospital, and things like that. When we talk about the 5G, we can set up, for example, even a robotic surgery facility there. We can easily transmit a huge, massive data file from the CT scan. Setting up a CT scan machine, setting up an MRI machine with the technician there is not a challenge. It is not a problem. But the challenge was collecting all those data in real time and fast manner and in a reliable manner was really a challenge when there is not enough internet speed there. So, and that saves cost for sure. That reduces the load on the national healthcare systems. And, things are each other connected in this ecosystem. People want to come from that rural area to the hospitals and things like that for this diagnostics and things. There are vehicles they need to operate and things. So you are not driving that anymore. You are helping the environment, right? From now, if I look into an agriculture, that's very important. That's one of the most important things in the rural areas. What we call today is a smart, intelligent, precision agriculture. What does it mean? We throw a bunch of sensors in the field. They take data, they measure the humidity level, the soil quality level, the temperature level in real time. Yes.
So, sorry, these are important discussions. I really enjoyed your perspective, especially Kelly's. We have to continue talking about that. Unfortunately, we are running out of time.
Yes, yeah,
so I have been asked to stop here. We are getting lots of questions. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to answer them, but there is a virtual hall. So I encourage people to go and meet us in a virtual hall, and we are going to try to answer the questions. So again, thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much, Dr. Hack. Very important discussion. And I really hope our paths will cross again and we'll continue talking about opportunities and benefits. Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.